Hi guys, Tara here, and welcome to another Crafting with Curly Cues video, Close to My Heart edition. I cannot believe that it is September already, so I'm going to feature the September stamp of the month from Close to My Heart and this great background here. So this is the stamp of the month for September. It's called Paper Gardens. I'm going to combine it with this cute little sentiment as well as 5 different Close to My Heart ink pads. So I'm taking just a plain piece of Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock, and I've cut it down to be the size of the front of a card, which doesn't really matter because I'm going to actually trim it again later. But you can see that I've started with it taped to my work surface, and that's gonna go away real quick when I realize that this completely solid stamp that is in this September stamp of the month that is absolutely gorgeous took me a couple tries to really get a good solid impression. And I even took out some fine grit sandpaper and kind of ran over it a little bit just to make it a little bit more porous and kind of dirty and messy, if you will, to hold that ink better. I started with some archival Ranger Black ink, and I was not able to get a solid impression with that. I ended up using StazOn. So you can see no longer taped here. This is like try number 7. So I cut all of that out so that you didn't have to watch me stamp this over and over and over. And you can see I am pushing down very hard on all the different portions of that stamp. And then when I peel it off, I still don't get 100% solid impression, but I decided, what the hey, I'm just going to go with the distress look. So this is a stamp that also comes in that stamp set. It's kind of a really cool chicken wire looking stamp for like some background. So I have chosen to take that and just stamp it right on top of the black impression with some Versamark ink, and I'm going to clear emboss that so that it will show up in white behind all of the colored inking that I'm going to do to create the background and add just kind of a little bit of cool effect. And then on top of the black parts, it's clear and shiny and adds even another element of dimension. So it's a fun way to turn this almost 1 layer card into something with a little bit more pizzazz. So this is just some Simon Says Stamped clear embossing powder. I'm just going to sprinkle that on there and put the excess back in the jar, and then I'm going to take my heat tool and heat that up. I definitely made a mess when I was doing this, so I had to do like some dramatic hand sweeps to get all my powder off my work surface. So now I'm just going to take my heat tool, heat that up, and you can't see it now because it is clear, but as I start applying the background ink, you're going to see this emerge. So this is a really cool technique that I actually originally saw over on the Unity Stamp Company Facebook page, and I believe it was Angeline Chu that actually did it for the first time, and then it was Angela Magnuson, the owner of the company, that did another demonstration video. And this is a really great, simple way to create a really pretty eye-catching background. So you can see I just took 2 pieces of the I'm taking some of my Post-it tape, and you just tape it off in a line, and now I've got 5 different colors of Close to My Heart inks, and I will list those in the description over on my blog so that you can know exactly what colors I'm using. And what I did was I first inked over with a makeup sponge, simple makeup sponge, because I don't have a million distress ink tools to apply all this ink. So I just grabbed some of these makeup sponges. They work fantastic. And I just put it on over that first stripe, and then you peel up your Post-it tape, reapply it up higher, and then take the other piece and just stick it right over what you've already done. And the key to this, I feel, is that you leave a little tiny sliver of the color showing so that you can slightly overlap so you don't end up with any white space in between those colors. And you just get this really pretty striped background. So you can see as I'm doing this too that white clear embossing is actually emerging, and the reason that's white is because the paper that it's on is white. And you can see that really cool chicken wire design back there too. So I do have the 5 colors. I'll try to remember what they are. Let's see. I've got cranberry, pear, desert sand, Gold Rush, and Juniper. Those are the 5 colors that I'm using. And when I do this technique, I've done it a couple times now, I find that I actually like the look of it better when I don't go in a strict pattern. So I'm just kind of grabbing whichever ink seems to catch my eye, trying not to put 2 back to back that I've already done, but really just kind of randomly throwing them on there. I'm not stressed about like, oh man, I put my cranberry next to my pear last time, so I better do it again this time. I want it to look kind of a little bit more organic and freeform than that. So you can see as this starts to come together, as your tape climbs up towards the top, you start to see all those really cool pattern colors, and you could really do some cool things with this. With the size of your stripes, you could do like really thick and then really thin. I did one that was a diagonal. I've tried this technique with distress inks on watercolor paper and then like spritzed it with water afterwards. That looks really cool. This is the first time I used the Close to My Heart inks, and I gotta tell you, I was pretty impressed with how vibrant and solid this color went onto the paper. I was kind of thinking that it was going to be a little bit of a challenge, but my unexpected use of makeup sponges turned out to be really awesome. I actually just taught a class on inking backgrounds, and I used distress inks and as well as regular inks for that. Well, I used some pigment inks and some distress inks, and I passed out makeup sponges because I can't really afford to supply everybody in my classes with all of the really snazzy tools, and I was so excited about how well the makeup sponges worked that I promptly came back up to my craft room the next day and created this project using makeup sponges, and was pretty stoked that I found this really awesome solution to having all those distress ink distressor pads in different colors, because it starts to get spendy, not to mention like storage is a pain in the rump. I just took these afterwards and labeled them with my label maker. Yes, I have a label maker, love to use it, and stuck them in little baby Ziploc bags so I can get about 4 or 5 sponges in a bag, and I just stuck on the outside what color ink was in there, and now I'm just going to save them for next time. So now you can see that my background piece is all done, and I've just got those patterns laid on there. It looks really cool. I love the way that this technique works, and it makes it look like you put a lot of work in, and you can see that that was really just a pretty simple technique. This whole card took me about half an hour to throw together. So I am creating now a top folding card base out of some craft cardstock. It's just an A2 size card base, and then I'm going to trim up my background panel to be, I think the final dimensions ended up being 5 by 3.75. So I ended up with a 1/4 inch border around all 4 sides of this. And part of why I did that is because I did kind of the funky Post-it tape on the outside, so the top and the bottom had those funny stripes. And then I just wanted to cut it down a little bit. So I didn't cut it quite evenly on the sides because I would have cut off the sentiment. So I did a little bit more off the pattern, but I kind of like that now the pattern, that flower stamp, is hanging off the side of the card there. This is a really fun technique to do with any solid stamps, like all kinds of different images. You could do like a really big sentiment. That would be cool too. So lots of fun things to do with this. So this is my Ranger Tim Holtz edge distressing tool. And I'm embarrassed to say that I owned this guy for like months, literally, before I figured out how to use it. And I actually had to do a Google search on how to use this tool. I don't know. It's got like these little notches in it, and inside each little notch is like a little tiny exposed piece of like razor blade, and all you do is just take it and kind of drag it down the side of the paper, and it just distresses the paper. I really wanted to like be able I couldn't figure out the dragging. Like, I don't know why that didn't occur to me, but now that I know how to use it, I enjoy using it. It creates a really neat look on the projects and makes them nice and distressed. So now I'm going to take some Close to My Heart chocolate ink, which is a slightly darker brown than that desert sand that I used on the piece. And I'm going to grab another one of those handy dandy makeup sponges, and I am just going to distress the edge of this entire piece. So I really like the way that in the end I feel like it's really kind of surprising that this piece of paper started out like just white, because it really kind of gets put through the ringer and looks like a really distressed, grungy piece of work here. So now I'm going to take an extra piece of paper and just dab off some of that excess ink, and then just lightly go over the top of the whole panel. And that's just going to kind of mute those colors in the background a little bit and give it that slightly distressed look. So now you can see that my panel just fits right on the front of my card. And I was going to leave it at this, and then I decided it needed just a little bit more oomph. So I snagged some brown ribbon out of my like scrap ribbon bin. I don't have any idea where this ribbon came from or who made it. It just happened to be there, and it just happened to be perfect for this project. It matched that chocolate ink beautifully. So I had just used my ATG gun to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of that ribbon so that I could adhere it to the back of my panel. And now I'm just going to bring it up to the front and tie a little bow. Now, some card makers have these phenomenal tricks for achieving the perfect bow. I am not one of those card makers. So I'm telling you right now, I tie the bow and then I fiddle. And then I fiddle some more, and then I tug, and then sometimes I untie, and then I retie, and then I fiddle. And I basically just keep tweaking it until it looks the way that I want it. And no special trick to it. I've been trying to listen to some of the tips that some people are really specific about right over left, left over right. I don't know. I can't seem to wrap my head around that. So I just basically tweaked this bow till it looked like I wanted it. And then I'm going to use some Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, and I'm going to stick a little bit of that underneath the ribbon there where the adhesive didn't quite reach all the way around to the front, as well as underneath some of the tails on the bow so that they kind of sit exactly where I want them to. It actually worked because the glue kind of gushed out of the ribbon, so I just squished the bow tail right on there and made that work for me. You can see I kind of covered up the heart embellishment on that sentiment. I thought that the bow looked cuter with the flower than the little heart did, but you certainly didn't have to cover that up if you didn't want to. So now I'm just going to flip this panel over that's all set and put some Scotch foam tape. You can see on the back some of my whoopsies. I told you I had to stamp this 8,000 times to get a good impression. That's one of the ones that didn't work out. So you can see, always flip it over. You always have another shot. So now I'm just going to peel the back off of that foam tape, and I am going to pop this panel on the front of my card base. And that is going to complete the card for today. So a nice and simple way to create a really fun, vibrant background. You could do this with all sorts of different color families. And also showcasing the new stamp of the month for September, the Paper Garden stamp. So that is available. The new idea books came out for Close to My Heart this month, so you should definitely check that out. Thanks so much for watching. You can see all the supplies over at curlycues.blogspot.com. And if you would like to see some more videos, I've got another Close to My Heart edition as well as a multimedia canvas here. Thanks.